Perfect. So like I've said, we're looking at factors that influence learning. Factors that influence learning. There are variables in the teaching and the learning situation which can enhance or hinder the learning. From the theories of learning that we looked at, there are a number of things that you can already identify, but there are some factors that I want us to go through today. And because these factors also influence how we learn. One of these factors is the teacher's personality and competence. A teacher's personality and competence. What do I mean by a teacher's personality and competence? A competent teacher will enhance learning, while an incompetent one will hinder the learning process. A competent teacher will be able to apply techniques that will foster learning, and he or she will be able to organize the class, handle the problems in the classroom, and maintain order. The reverse applies to the incompetent teacher. The incompetent teacher will do the opposite of what is expected. That is, she'll not be able to organize her class. That teacher will not be able to deal with the problems, handle them appropriately, and this teacher will not be able to maintain order in class. A teacher's personality matters a great deal. The way a teacher behaves in class can either enhance or hinder learning. Example, is the teacher present or hostile? Is the teacher able to communicate effectively? That's what, in a nutshell, I would refer to as the teacher's personality and competence. Then the second factor that will determine how learning occurs has to do with characteristics of the learning environment. The environment should be suitable for learning. An environment that enhances learning should have enough light, enough ventilation, good buildings, no bullying, and these classrooms also should not be overcrowded. An environment that hinders learning has overcrowded classrooms, the classes are dark, they are stuffy, they have poor buildings, buildings that are congested, buildings that are close to each other, poor infrastructure, number of toilets does not serve and support the capacity of the population using them. There is bullying, there is indiscipline, and children do not get to learn because the environment is chaotic. So if a class is like on top of a bar, like some campuses in town and everywhere, there is a campus block in the middle of a building. Below this building, or in the next room, or in the adjacent building, there is an hotel. So there are fumes, all sorts of fumes that are smelling in class. And then the other side, there is a bar. The other side, there is a disco. And all these things are going to affect the learning and how it occurs. So you expect those students to be disappearing from class to go to eat, to go to the disco, and also to go to the pub, because the doors are here. The learner characteristics is another factor. So under the learner characteristics, an individual's intelligence will come into play. And here we say that brighter learners process information faster than the dull ones. Then motivation levels of a learner will determine the learning. The emotional levels of the learner. If an individual has got emotional problems, this is going to hinder how they learn. Then individual readiness to learn, which also we refer to as mental stability. Remember Piaget? He tells us that teach children according to their mental capability or according to their levels of intellectual development. Then we have socio-economic background. This also will determine how, it's a learner characteristic that will determine how the individual person learns. Research shows that children from middle-class backgrounds tend to work harder in school than children from high-class backgrounds. That is subject to debate. So we've looked at 3 factors: a teacher's personality and competence. We've looked at characteristics of the learning environment and the learner characteristics. Then the 4th factor that influences learning, which I want to focus also on right away, is the subject matter. The subject matter. The subject matter should be meaningful if learning is to take place. If the learner is subjected to meaningless material, learning will not occur. For material to be meaningful, it should be selected, organized, and presented in a potentially meaningful manner. The content should be consistent with the learner's developmental level, and the teacher should also motivate the learners so that he or she has the desire to know, and that is the student. If these conditions are met, the material will be assimilated into the learner's cognitive structure. A major problem that occurs here is that teachers make the subject abstract, such that the content has no bearing in the lives or experiences of the learner, which should not be the case. The teacher should therefore seek ways and means of bringing relevance of content to the learner's experience. How can the teacher ensure that the subject matter enhances learning? There are a number of ways that teachers can be able to use to achieve this. One is that as a teacher, you should assess the readiness of the learner before presenting the content by identifying the knowledge the learner already has, the skills, the abilities, the motives, the experiences, and then make this the starting point, because it gives you a direction or indicates the point at which the learner is, the level at which the learner is, so you pick up from there. The other way a teacher can ensure that the subject matter enhances learning is by the teacher presenting the material in a style that captures the learner's attention and motivation. Present the material in a style that captures the learner's attention and motivation. The other way you can ensure that the subject matter enhances learning is building on the learner's past experience. We learn a lot through experiences that other people have gone through. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So you build from there, from that experience that they have already. Another way a teacher can ensure the subject matter enhances the learning is through discovery learning. Learners should discover concepts, meanings, and relationships on their own. Knowledge that is self-discovered is more significant to the learner and is remembered better. Then next is usefulness of content. Content should be made relevant to the needs of the learner, whereby the learner is able to perceive content as useful to him or herself. And lastly, but not the least, the concept learning. The learner should not be exposed to facts that are isolated. The learner should be able to see relationships, relate what is being learned to what was learned earlier on. This concept of learning is very important, both in understanding a subject and in transferring the knowledge to future situations. And this is because whenever we learn something, new knowledge, we should be in a position to apply it to our day-to-day situations. If you learn something and you are not able to apply it to your daily activities, then it means that learning is irrelevant. And for this particular topic, these are things that you're going to apply even as you end to the teaching profession, whereby you're going to develop your career. And having said that, I want to stop there. Then tomorrow, we'll look at transfer of learning. We'll look